Good evening, I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. My colleague and co-host, Thaddeus McCotter, WJR, the great voice of the Great Lakes, joins me tonight. Thaddeus, I checked outside before I came on air here in New York. I saw no evidence of inbound nuclear weapons. How you doing in Detroit? Is there a fire alarm? Is there an alarm out because Vladimir Putin is angry with the United States and is going to issue sanctions against our leading politicians, and they're boasting that they can turn the United States into, I think they said an ash heap. I'm not quite sure what the reference was. So, is there alarm in Detroit, or is all well?
Well, to quote Bowie, there's panic in Detroit, but it's due more to roving bands of Irishmen celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
I wish you a very good St. Patrick's Day, Thaddeus McCotter. You are Irishman tonight to walk with, and I saw an image from the ISS, I believe, of Ireland all lit up. A lot of bright lights over Dublin tonight, enjoying St. Patrick's Day, but no nuclear clouds. That's what I want to confirm. No nuclear clouds.
No, but there are, again, a lot of Irishmen lit up.
All right, lit up. We go to Aaron Task, the editor-in-chief of the Yahoo Finance, as well as the host of Daily Ticker, because Aaron is the man watching the markets for us. And if there was going to be a place reacting to these dueling sanctions, if you've not heard everything, the President of the United States issued a sanctions list today against Russian and Ukrainian rich people. They're not allowed to travel to the United States, I believe, or at least if they travel here, they're going to be disciplined. And some of their assets will be acquired, though I'm not quite sure how they will be acquired because billionaires are very difficult to track. Anyway, that was earlier. And then late in the day, this is the London Telegraph reporting that the Russians, Vladimir Putin, will issue his own sanctions list within these next hours. And we're expecting leading members of Congress. John McCain raised his hand from Kiev saying, I hope I'm on the list. Specifically, Dick Durbin was mentioned because he's the author of legislation to punish Russia for its Crimean operation. We don't know if the president will be on the list, but we are told by the London Telegraph, following the Daily Beast, that there will be high Obama administration officials. Aaron, a very good evening to you. So, the dueling sanctions. Did the market notice today? Is there panic on Wall Street? Good evening to you, Aaron.
Good evening, John. And that is, there was not panic on Wall Street. There was joy on Wall Street today. I suppose the people on Wall Street thought the Crimeans might vote down the referendum, and they were relieved and thrilled that it went through with such overwhelming majorities. I don't know how else to explain the action in the markets today. There was a huge rally in the market today. All seriousness, the referendum was assumed that was going to be positive, but I didn't expect that people would be celebrating the way they did today.
Thaddeus?
Well, it is confusing, I suppose. Is there any external factor that may explain the markets other than the situation? Well,
of course. There's always... It's always dangerous to attribute the market action to anything, up or down, and the market's going to do what it's going to do. The Dow is down about 2.5% last week, and so there might have been some folks who've been on the sidelines waiting for an opportunity to buy, and they took that as their opportunity, and then it built on itself throughout the course of the day. But I didn't hear any rational explanation for why what happened in Crimea should be a positive for the markets. And then, in addition to that, the sanctions that John just described, and the possibility of the Russians turning America into a heap of ashes. Obviously, no one took that seriously. If they did, we would have been down much more than we were up today.
It ain't the Cold War anymore, Aaron. That's all we can conclude. Because if they were throwing darts at each other in 1982, there would have been deep anxiety. So let's leave aside. We can't manufacture a reason for people ignoring the market. I mean, ignoring the sanctions. So let's talk about what the market really cares about. Janet Yellen is the chair of the Federal Reserve, and this is time for her to come forward and reveal her hand. Is there going to be any change in the course set by Mr. Bernanke, her predecessor? That is, to continue the taper, no sharp moves, to speak of bolstering an economy that's in recovery. Are we expecting any surprise, Aaron?
No surprise. During her congressional hearing last month, she talked about continuity with Ben Bernanke's policies, and she was, of course, the vice chair when he was the chairman. And I think she's going to continue this steady as she goes. $10 billion less of bond buying each Fed meeting until they're done, unless there's some dramatic change in the economy, up or down. But the most recent set of data we've gotten suggested the economy was doing not great, but not terrible, and so that should give her and the Fed plenty of room to continue on this tapering timeline that they've laid out.
I measure the economy as well in Michigan. Mr. McCotter, has Michigan enjoyed this recovery? We talk about it every week here in New York, but where it matters is Detroit and the surrounding counties. Do you see recovery there?
Well, it's always hard because you have to remember where we started from with the crisis in the auto industry,
right.
The city of Detroit in bankruptcy. So you reach a certain point where when you're going up, it's almost inevitable that you go up. But does that mean you're really on your way to where you want to be, or is it just the inevitability of a body hitting bottom and bouncing up a little?
It's an election year. Do you see any enthusiasm for the political candidates in Michigan? That would be one way of endorsing a recovering economy.
Well, the partisans and the political class, this is what they do, so they always get excited. I just don't think ordinary Michiganders are particularly enthused about the coming elections. I still think the hearth of home issues matter more to them and are far more pressing to them than an election in November.
Let's go off to Texas, because last week Mr. Task was not able to join us. He was in Austin, Texas. Aaron, how do you say SSWIX? It was a long anagram. What does that stand for?
South by Southwest.
South by Southwest. It's a celebration of something new, which is the state of Texas has stolen all the entrepreneur class from California. Aaron, for years I reported that it costs more to rent a trailer from California to Texas than vice versa. And I think you saw evidence in Austin. What was going on?
The South by Southwest Festival has been going on for several years. It started as a music festival, and I suppose about 10 years ago, some of the technophiles started going there as well. And now that the interactive, as they call it, portion of the festival is bigger than the music festival. They get 40,000 people descending on Austin for this festival. That's the anomaly. What's going on in Austin every day is they're averaging about 110 people are coming to Austin net on a daily basis, many of them working in the high-tech fields, and it's becoming a self-fulfilling cycle where more high-tech companies are coming to Austin, which is attracting more startups and other folks in the industry, competitors and or folks who want to do business together. And Austin, to me, feels a little bit like San Francisco did, I would say 1996, 97, when things were just starting to heat up before they got super crazed in 1999 and 2000 during the internet boom. But it is certainly a boom in Austin right now.
You were in San Francisco in 2000. I started talking to you when you were at thestreet.com. And San Francisco at that moment was experiencing the blow-off of the first tech bubble. This is the one where this is pre-Google bubble, AOL time, real crude stuff. Did it feel like that, Aaron?
Again, it felt like the maybe the first inning of that, if it's a 9-inning game. Just the start of it, it's getting frenetic. It's not getting super crazed yet, but you could see it starting to percolate around the edges. There's a tremendous amount of building going on in downtown Austin, and of course, the realtors will tell you there's much more demand than supply, and prices will keep going up, and they can't build them fast enough. And again, similar things occurred in San Francisco in the years leading up to the bursting of the bubble, but they haven't had the mass euphoria yet. It's just starting, as I said. And to your point, the folks there will tell you, hey, there's no income tax here, and compared to California, the cost of living is a lot cheaper. And by the way, we don't have that millionaire's tax that they have in California too, and it is definitely attracting a lot more high-tech talent.
I wanted to make that point, Thaddeus, because what's happening in Austin could be happening in Michigan if the tax basis would support it. In other words, if taxes were cut and the regulatory environment over these years wasn't built up. Is it possible? Is that too far to dream that Michigan could enjoy this kind of bonanza?
Well, you can always dream, but the problem becomes, especially in the industrial heartland of the country, where you've built up the social safety net over a period of time, you've built up a vast regulatory bureaucracy, you've built up a rather high tax rate. So what happens, John, is the ability to make those types of changes, say to get rid of an income tax or to significantly reduce the regulatory bureaucracy, you run into the special interests that are vested within those entities, and change becomes much more difficult than it does in a place like Texas, where lacking those things, you can try to attract new business without having to take on the vested interests.
Mr. Task, is Texas the future? Is this where tech is going?
Well, Texas is definitely the present, and it's the place where, look, if Tesla builds their giga battery factory in Texas, then
Right.
yes, it's the future. And believe me, there's a lot of folks in Austin who are thinking they've got a really good shot to bring him there.
Aaron Task is the editor-in-chief of Yahoo Finance. He's the host of the Daily Ticker. Thaddeus McCotter at WJR in Detroit, the great voice of the Great Lakes. And Austin, Texas is headed to the future. I'm John Batchelor.